We're back on our Breda Garand. We finally got some parts from the customer. So what I was going to do, this barrel is pretty pitted and I recommended that he change it. If we look right there especially, we can see all the how bad that pitting is right there. So we're definitely going to talk him. We talked him into changing the barrel, but while we were at it, he said let's put a 308 barrel on it. So I'm just going to have a look at these original markings on this barrel. This barrel was a, let's have a better, closer look here. This is a, there we go, 12 of 64. It's a Springfield Armory barrel, 12 of 64. It's a standard 30-06 barrel. Just before I take it apart, just for the hell of it, I'm going to want to check the headspace. See what we got for headspace on this thing. I've got a no-go gauge here, 30-06 no-go gauge, and see that or not? Probably a little bit too bright around here to see any of that. Reflection's too much, but anyway, it's a no-go gauge. So if this barrel is decent, this bolt shouldn't close on a no-go gauge, and you can see she's closed. It even rattles on the no-go gauge, so you know that chamber's pretty much shot anyway. So good decision to change that barrel. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take this old barrel off, and we've got a replacement here. It's a beautiful brand new, let's see if we can get these markings. It's a 308 barrel. I don't know who manufactured this barrel. It looks like CBI 308 blah blah blah. Looks like 1 of 10, so it's a fairly new, or maybe 8 of 10. Hard to say, but anyway. So we're going to put that barrel in. It'll probably be short chambered. I haven't checked the chamber yet to see how a headspace gauge gets in there. But if it's too small, we'll ream it. I've got my 308 headspace gauges right here, and I got my nice reamer right here. It's a pull-through. It's a pull-through type that you put this in through the end of the barrel and pull the reamer through. And as soon as the bolt closes, we know that we're good to go. So climber, 308 reamer. So anyway, I will go ahead and pull this old barrel off of here, and I'll kind of guide you through, and you can see how a new barrel gets installed. All right? Okay. We'll be back. So we got this barrel cracked loose, the receiver cracked loose from the barrel, so I'm going to take it off now. And it's always important. I put a little bit of tape on the receiver there where the wrench goes, just to make sure it doesn't mark the receiver up anyway. But one thing I always do once I get them apart is I clean those threads out really good. I don't want any oil. You don't use any oil when you reinstall a barrel. Part of the problem is you can't get a true torque specification, and the other problem is that oil, once you drop this in a 210-degree parkerizing solution, that oil gets real thin and starts creeping out between the barrel and the receiver and pollutes your parkerizing solution, screws up your parkerizing job. So I take a little bit of degreaser, lacquer thinners, whatever, and I get in there and I clean that thread really good. I get rid of all that oil in there. But and on the same with the new barrel. The new barrel, I put that on dry. I don't put no lubricant, nothing on those threads. Put it together dry. So anyway, there's the old barrel. And even though it's shot out, it would still be a good enough barrel for a dummy or a wall hanger or something like that. So it might even work. Sometimes if you just simply switch bolts, switch receivers, sometimes you can play with a combination of things and come up with decent headspace. So I wouldn't just throw this barrel away, but anyway, at least it's off, and we'll put our 308 barrel on, and I'll show you how all the different steps in putting on a barrel. So stay tuned. All right, so we've cleaned the threads of all old grease and oils, and so we got nice clean surface everywhere. The threads on the barrel are beautiful. The threads on the receiver. So everything is good to go. Now what I've done is I've just roughly figured out where the center of the barrel is, just roughly, and given myself a chalk mark right there. And same on the receiver. I've given myself a chalk mark roughly in the middle of the receiver. Just a rough guess. We're not doing anything perfect right now. So now I'm just going to thread them on. Now the first thing you got to worry about when you do a barrel change is that the barrel is timed to the right spot, so that the barrel, when it's fully tightened, there, that's fully tightened. But you can see already that the center, or roughly the center of the barrel, which is right there where I made the chalk mark, isn't even close to the chalk mark on the receiver. So that means obviously the front sight down here is going to be cockeyed. So in order for the front sight to be straight up and down, in line with the receiver, we've got to make sure that our chalk marks line up. Now once again, that's not exact. Those chalk marks are just to let me know when I'm getting close. Now, because this won't tighten anymore, how are we going to fix that problem? Well, you never alter a receiver. That's your first step. Never screw up the receiver. So if we need this receiver to turn a little further on the barrel, I guess that means that we're going to have to take a little bit of meat off this back edge of this barrel here. We're going to have to file a little bit of this shoulder away, just not much, just a little. Take a thou or two, take a thou or two away, and that'll allow this receiver to turn a little bit further, and maybe it'll be far enough. You don't want to take too much material so that the receiver over tightens, although that is fixable, but we're going to try to not get in that situation. So we're going to take a little bit of meat off that barrel, and then we're going to try and put the receiver back on. And once again, we're not torquing anything at this point. We know we're too far away. We're not going to try and torque that so that those lines line up. You'll never get it to move that far. So we're going to take a little material off, and then we're going to try the receiver back on again. So I'll be back in a second, and we'll see how we're making out. So we got our barrel in the vise in a position where we can file it. And as we talked about earlier, we got to take a little bit of meat off of this shoulder right here. We got to file a little bit down, a little bit away, so that this receiver can thread on a little bit further. So now you can obviously do this in a lathe, but if you don't have a lathe, or it's just a simple enough procedure, which this is, I just use a file. I use a file with a safe edge. See, it has no teeth on that edge. There's no teeth at all on this edge, at all, nothing. It's got teeth on all the other edges, but it doesn't have any teeth on that edge. And the reason for that is now I can file, I can go in, put this safe edge against those threads so you can't damage anything, and then you can file away with this edge. So I mean, that's just basic common sense, but just in case some of you didn't know, you can buy files like that have what's called a safe edge, so there's no teeth on an edge. So anyway, I'm going to file a little bit of meat off that shoulder, and then I'm going to see if that receiver can thread on a little bit further. So we'll be back. Alright, so we've taken a little bit of meat off that shoulder, just a little bit, a few passes with a fine file, and safe edge once again, so you don't damage the threads at all. Once again, never alter the receiver, never. Always alter the barrel. The barrel is easier to change and replace than a receiver is. But let's just see now what happens. Taking a little bit of meat off. I don't know if I've taken enough off. Just trial fitting it here. Okay, so there she's stopping. Now you can already see those lines are very close now. Very, very close. That's not going to be a problem. I can torque that. I'll tighten that barrel down, and we'll be in a good spot. Those two marks will line up. I can tighten it that much. But at this point, our chalk marks aren't accurate enough at this point now. But at least we know we're in the ballpark. So now I'm going to set the rifle up a little bit different and put the front sight and the gas tube on it, and then we'll have a better idea of how everything's going to line up. So, but we're definitely awful close now. So I'll set that up and I'll get right back to you.